The people of Sri Lanka woke up to news today that their president has dissolved parliament. President Maithripala Sirisena wants elections to be held on January the 5th. This amid a political crisis that started after he sacked the elected prime minister and replaced him with a former pro-China president. The prime minister refuses to leave his office residence, and the dissolution of the parliament might be challenged in the courts. Well, Jonathan Broder is here. He writes about national security issues for Newsweek magazine and has worked as a foreign correspondent in South Asia. Have I missed something here? Isn't Sri Lanka a largish island in the Indian Ocean that is now a tourist destination? Why is everybody from the State Department getting exercised about this?
Sri Lanka has great strategic importance. It lies right at in the middle of the Indian Ocean, at the tip of India. It sits astride major shipping routes. It's very important for the Indians who have, up until now, maintained dominance over the Indian Ocean. But in the past few years, China has expressed interest in the value of Sri Lanka as well.
Well, there are reports, some kind of spat going on between Beijing and New Delhi over Sri Lanka, with New Delhi being unhappy with the amount of investment that China is putting into Sri Lanka. What do you say about that? Well,
that's true. There has basically a rivalry between India and China for influence and for positioning in Sri Lanka. Over the past few years, China has loaned Sri Lanka some $1 billion for infrastructure projects. Sri Lanka has had difficulty paying them back, has had to hand over the port of Hambantota to the Chinese for a 99-year lease. This upsets India, which is vying for infrastructure projects in Colombo.
But is this at the core of the political crisis, as some call it, going on in Sri Lanka at the moment? Or is it at least a part of it or behind it?
Suggestions are that there was a cabinet meeting last month where the prime minister tried to convince the president to honor an agreement with India to build infrastructure projects in Colombo, mainly in the port.
Right.
The president didn't want to do this. There was an argument in the cabinet meeting, which other cabinet ministers have confirmed, and 10 days later, the prime minister was gone.
Right. So the existing president has removed the existing prime minister and replaced him, if it all goes ahead, with a former president who's pro-China. And we're now moving toward elections in January. At least that's what the existing president wants. Now, is that doable? Will that solve anything?
Well, I mean, there's a talk of challenging it in court, and if it's challenged in court and thrown out, then there won't be elections. But if there are elections, if it goes through, it's pretty, I would say the chances are very that this returning politician, Rajapaksa, will be elected, or his party will be elected, because he's quite popular. He was responsible for defeating the Tamil Tigers in the Civil War. There's some questions about his authoritarianism when he was ruling, but he still remains very, very popular among the Sinhalese, who make up 2/3 of the population.
Yes, and are you surprised that there's been so much street protest over this? We've seen people just there, in fact, on the street in Colombo protesting, saying, open up the parliament again, get things going.
Yes, well, the thing is that this new guy who has been brought in is basically a caretaker prime minister, so nothing much can get done. And there are people who are very protective of Sri Lanka's emerging democracy.
Jonathan, we have to leave it there, but thank you very much for that analysis. Thank you so much. Thank you, sir. Jonathan Broder.